Hello everybody and welcome to the latest Analysing Anfield. I am Kristian Walsh and with me as always is Josh Williams. Liverpool top of the league still, 4 wins out of 4. It's the international break, but don't let that put you off. Come and sit down, make a bit of a brew and let's have a little chat, Josh, about Burnley and a little bit about the story so far as well. We'll begin at Turf Moor. First of all, I suppose before we even get there, how are you?
Good. Hopefully a bit more tanned.
I don't know if I can tell.
No,
you can't tell with these lights.
No, you probably can't. But I think there's a little bit of something there. I'm not too sure. Maybe I'm being too generous.
Oh, you can always get on the fake sunshine, you know.
Yeah, I don't know about
out of a bottle or in a bed. I tell you what, the sun was absolutely shining on Burnley, which is a very rare thing that you can say. As Liverpool won 3-0 to extend their 100% record, 4 wins out of 4. It's nearly a week ago, Josh. We're recording this because on a Friday because you've been away, so it's a little bit later this week. I know people have been tweeting us and asking where it is. So yes, it's today, getting recorded on Friday. So nearly a week ago, Burnley. Let's not dwell on it too much. But the easiest game against Burnley away since Klopp arrived. I've put that out as a shout. I don't know what you think, but it felt to me it was a consummate 3-0 away performance.
Yeah, I think it was the easiest performance though because of ourselves. I think we made that the case. Believe it or not, the first time that Klopp hasn't conceded against Burnley. Every other game we've conceded at least one. We've won most of them, like I say, but it's the first time we've kept a clean sheet against them. So I think Burnley's game is a lot about similar to ours in certain ways, in terms of they embrace the whole chaos and that kind of thing. So to keep that, levelled out for the entire match and run out 3-0 winners, you can't really ask for more, especially at Turf Moor.
It's interesting you say that about the goals conceded, because I think the evolution of this side under Klopp is kind of reflected by how his teams have played at Turf Moor. So the first time he goes to Turf Moor, Daniel Sturridge on the right wing, Philip Coutinho's in number 10, I think he was that day, and they lose 2-0. And you look at that game and the goals he conceded, they're just goals that Liverpool don't concede nowadays. And then it moves on a little bit and it's a really grinding 2-1 victory on New Year's Day. It's Ragnar Klavan with the last kick of the game, essentially. That was the day Sadio Mane, for me, sort of became the Mane that we know, because it was the day he really took the game by the scruff of the neck. And then last season, again, they fall behind. And then they come out 3-1 winners, but this one was a little bit more controlled. So just throw it out there, 8 shots from outside the box against Burnley on Saturday. If you remember that 2-0 game, Philip Coutinho himself had 8 shots from outside the area and not one of them hit the back of the net. That was the day when Liverpool had around 30 shots in all. Burnley had 2. 2 shots on target, 2 goals. How much can you look at that Burnley and the way Klopp has adapted to these sorts of games, and you can just see the maturity seeping out of that Liverpool team now?
Yeah, well, I did the game, and one of the conclusions that I got from it was that, this is certainly not a team that can be bullied anymore. This Liverpool team, a lot of winners in there, a lot of grinders, grafters, that kind of thing, and I think I got a bit of a vibe as well as to why Burnley tend to do so mad in terms of XG.
Because we've said before on this show, haven't we, that Burnley and XG just have no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah, like one of the things we focus on in this show, rather than results, is performance. And we said last week that Burnley just tend to, every season, overperform what their performance suggests they should be doing. And I think it just, watching the match, I got a vibe of it just because of how the matches are crazy. When you watch Burnley play, the matches are just mad. The ball spends more time in the sky than it does on the floor. Burnley don't really need any choreographed build-up play, intricate football, nothing to get an actual chance. It's just very awkward, chaotic, crazy football.
Circumstantial.
Yeah, it's very much like pinball, where the ball's just bouncing off people's shins all over the place. And when it's like that, it's a bit like Sunday League. And when it's like that, you can just get a chance and you can just score. So your performance might not capture that you played well, but you'll get chances and you might score them, and people will make mistakes. And it's just really they embrace the variance, they embrace the aspects of the game that the likes of City and Liverpool try to completely eradicate. And that's why they're such a weird team to face. I don't know if you saw, I tweeted Liverpool's past two teams when the past two times we went to Burnley, Turf Moor, and our past two teams have been awful just because of when we've faced them. You know, New Year after, I think it might have been two days after facing someone else.
Yep. Leicester it was Leicester.
Yeah, so if you combine the way Burnley play, the awkward football that they play, with much changed teams every time we've gone there, that's why it's, I mean, I said last time, it's not a ground I ever look forward to visiting, but maybe it stems from that. And this is the first team we took there whereby first time Salah, Mane, Firmino have actually been on the pitch together. I thought Van Dijk was unbelievable, imperious. Then defence was very good in general. And yeah, we just demonstrated the maturity and ability to cope with such an awkward style of play, and an ability to cope when tasked with physical players and things like that. So yeah, it was just an impressive, I don't want to say it, but title winning performance kind of thing that champions, you know, often put out.
I mean, Man City only won there 1-0, and of course it was by the width of a ball, wasn't it? Of course, so many fine margins last season. That was one of them at Turf Moor where Aguero scores, but in the build-up it could have easily gone out for a goal kick. So we'll talk about the Salah and Mane situation. Not from because this isn't what this show is about. Not from what does it mean? Are they friends? Are they not friends? And you know, they're really good friends. And you know, Salah minds Mane's dog for him, and none of that. Although maybe he does, I don't know. I can't imagine what type of dog Sadio's got. But let's have a look at analytically. Is there anything there which suggests there's a problem?
No, this is not even a talking point. This is. I mean, I understand why it is, because obviously what went down on the pitch, but you have to consider that players that are like this have to be selfish to an extent. It's normal. Generally, and we're going to get onto this in a couple of minutes, but generally, usually the more shots you take, the more goals you score. So if Salah stops taking as many shots and stops creating these shots for himself, he maybe scores less. Same goes for Mane. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I've saw people come out with people backing Salah with numbers, saying, you know, Salah's got so many assists over the course of the past 3 seasons, he's definitely not selfish and things like that. And I understand that argument, but in this match, he was selfish for me. I mean, he was two very, very clear instances he should have passed, and why he didn't, I do not know. But in general, I have no real issue with him being selfish. I think it's just a common trait that you almost have to have in an attacker, and the attackers that aren't selfish tend to score less. You know, Firmino comes to mind, really. Benzema comes to mind for Real Madrid. Just letting Ronaldo take all the glory. You need unselfish players in there, but you need your selfish players as well. You need a mix of that. So there's no issue there at all for me.
I saw an interesting, I think his name's Baba Yagu, Stephen Drennan, his name is on Twitter. He's definitely worth a follow if you don't do that already. But he hypothesised over whether, basically with the game won and at 2-0, Salah was trying a couple of little ideas in terms of, he's on the right hand side of the pitch on his left foot. He knows that they know, the opposition, that he's going to cut inside onto his left and have a shot. You know, it's something that Arjen Robben did. I think Salah is the heir to Robben in that respect now. And he was just sort of testing the idea of to throw the defender off course, rolling the ball back onto his right and trying to have a shot with his right foot instead, because that's probably the one weapon in his arsenal which isn't as potent as it could be. And if Mohamed Salah suddenly has a deadly right foot as well, and he can go on the outside as well as the inside, the Premier League's in even more trouble than it already is. Is that something that you can see? Is it something as intricate as that, or is it just that innate desire for what is essentially a striker? I know he wears number 11 on his back, but he's a number 9 in his head. Is it just that innate desire to score goals?
I think it could possibly be a mixture of both. I think it's certainly the latter, in terms of, he just has a desire to score goals, as simple as that, really. And if he doesn't, he's one of them players who maybe isn't satisfied even if we win. But, on that point, maybe there's something there on that, yeah. I think the Firmino one in particular, he absolutely should be passing there. There's no excuse for that for me. But yeah, sometimes you can, in them attacking situations, particularly if you're getting in them regularly, particularly if you've got a lead, you can almost overthink sometimes, and you can overdo it, and when there's no real need, keep it simple kind of thing. And it looked like there was a bit of that involved, whereby he's overthinking it, he's trying to second guess where the defenders are going to go and what they're actually going to think he's doing in the first place, kind of thing. So yeah, but I think overall the whole selfish shout, maybe they don't like each other and things like that. It's there's nothing really there with that. They have a good balance, I'd say, of playing for each other and playing for the team, really.
There's so many Salah goals as well, isn't there, where if he is as selfless as people want him to be, and they obviously want him to pass, so many of his goals don't happen. You think about Tottenham at Anfield when he dances around everybody, then beats Lloris at his near post. You think about Southampton away. There's so many times I was there behind the goal that night just screaming, pass it, pass it, pass it. Oh, it's all right, he's found the bottom corner. Roma at home, Everton at home. There's so many times. And this is the thing when you've got an elite player. This is the thing when you've got elite players. Just another number to throw out there. Salah last season created 22 chances for Mane, 20 for Firmino. Mane created 24 for Salah. So it's not there from Andrew Beasley, who obviously is a friend of the show. So yeah, there's nothing to worry about in that sense, as you say. It gives an opportunity for us though to have a little look at Salah, Mane, and then a little bit afterwards Firmino, because I've been really, really interested in the change. And I think what we should say before we proceed here is that everything we're going to say now is on a 4-game sample size in the Premier League. 4 games is not enough.
No.
To make any sort of real conclusions, but you can start to see little trends emerging potentially. And so this is one, we're talking about Mane. Now, we've spoken about his creativity before, Josh, and how he's not as creative as he possibly could be. He focused on his goal scoring more than his creativity last season, but that's changed this season. His best season for expected assists was per 90 minutes was 2017-18 when he got 0.21. Now it's double, albeit only after 4 games. His XA, his expected assists per 90 is 0.42, which really, really interests me because he's pretty much doubled his creative output. And again, small sample size, but he's obviously been a little bit more creative this season.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if a figure that high is maintained. But one thing I did notice, I had a little look at shot assists before. So, it works as general, really. It's just an assist, but rather than it being a goal, you're just assisting a shot.
You call it, is it key pass? Is that the same type of metric, or is it a little bit different?
It is, but Wisecout, for some reason, record a key pass only if it doesn't result in a goal.
Right, I see.
So if it does result in a goal,
it wasn't a key pass.
It's no longer
right,
a key pass in Wisecout's eyes, which is weird. So, so Mane produced 5 shot assists against Southampton. He produced 3 against Arsenal, 1 against Burnley. Decent numbers. Salah's produced 1 in every game, with the exception of maybe Norwich, where he produced 3. And none of Salah's shot assists have been for Mane. 2 of Mane's have been for Salah. So, maybe it was just from Mane's perspective, for Mane's perspective, a little bit of frustration. Maybe he doesn't feel like Feels like there's a bit of rivalry on Salah's part that like he doesn't want to give Mane a goal. I don't know what it is. It's just it's a strange one, but as you say, 4 matches in, it's so early to be judging things like this. You're just virtually looking for clues at this stage, and if those early numbers certainly bode well for Mane in terms of his creative output improving on last season. Second
lowest again. We won't say it again because that is the caveat now. 4 games, can't judge. But his shots per 90 is the second lowest so far, that it has been since in the Premier League. Yeah, which is interesting. It looks like the creativity's up and the goal threat is down.
Well, that's what Salah's so good at doing. Salah has been superb at balancing both of them. He has, around 3.5 to 4 shots per 90, as well as creating a serious amount of chances for his teammates. That's one of the reasons I consider him as our best attacker, our most productive attacker, because he's just an output merchant. He's just constantly, he gives the ball away an awful lot. He looks like he's terrible accuracy and things like that, but it's because he's taking risks, he's trying things. And against Burnley, maybe he just made 1 or 2 bad decisions, in the last moment, but that should improve as the season goes on.
So according to Understats, to wade in there on what you said about Salah, 2.31 key passes per 90 minutes. That's his best key passes per 90 minutes so far since 2014-15.
Should say Understat actually have it right, by the way.
Right, okay.
Understat perceive it as a key pass is a pass that leads to a shot, which is how it always should be.
Well, there we go. Well, so he's making more key passes per 90 this season than he has at any other season.
Yeah,
and all the rate he is anyway.
Yeah, I think our front three are just very good at, if you fall short in one area, someone else picks it up there.
This is it. It's the yin, and Mane sort of maybe dropped down slightly shooting, and this is what we'll move on to now. His shooting's dropped, Mane. So let's talk about Roberto Firmino. He's taken 4.33 shots per 90 minutes, which is absolutely out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Again, 4 games. Let's not get carried away. But his previous highest at Liverpool was 2.92 in 16-17. We expect that number to drop, of course, but he's been brilliant for Liverpool so far this season, Firmino. But I didn't realise he was taking that many shots. Is this a change in his game, do we think? And what I will throw into that mix as well is that his key passes has now dropped to 0.76 per 90. He's never gone a season under 1 key pass per 90 before. So again, a little bit like Mane, but a reverse. His creativity's going down, but his shooting is going absolutely through the roof.
Yeah, well, that epitomises the whole sharing the workload thing. If someone does fall down on their outputs, one of the other 2 will pick it up, and vice versa, whatever it may be. But I'm glad that we are mentioning Firmino, because I think he's had a superb start of the season.
I think he's been Liverpool's best player.
He probably has, yeah.
Attacking wise.
Yeah. And as you say, posting over 4 shots per 90, certainly in the Premier League, that's their Premier League figures, is very uncharacteristic of him. I think he scored 2 so far in 4 matches, so a goal every 2 games. He's also registered an assist, I think. And one of the reasons Firmino has just generally scored less every year than Salah and Mane is just largely because he shoots less. If you shoot less, you're going to score less. That's generally the rule of thumb.
Yeah. Unless you're Harry Wilson.
yeah. Or Divock
Origi, of course.
So yeah, I mean, Wisecout have got Firmino's shooting numbers slightly different. Wisecout have got him at 4.03 shots per 90 rather than 4.33. But even still, that's still over 4 shots.
Probably not sustainable.
Probably not. I expect it to come down a bit, certainly based on his past couple of seasons, because last season he took 2.3 shots per 90 in the Premier League. Season before, 2.4. Season before that, 2.6. So very rarely does he post over 3, never mind over 4, what he's on now. Salah, for example, this season he's on 3.9. Last season, 3.5. Season before, 4.1 over the course of a full
that's
season,
ridiculous.
which is crazy. And you might have a few listeners tuning in at this point thinking, these are minuscule differences, which is true. But if you times Firmino's the best season Scouts have got for Firmino in the Premier League is 2.6 shots per 90. So if you times that by 38 full season, that's about 98 shots over the course of a season for Firmino. Whereas Salah, if you times his best, 4.1 over the course of a 38 game season, it's about 155 shots. So over the course of a season, Salah's shooting about 60 times more.
Now let's say they've got a conversion rate of 20%.
Yeah, exactly.
There's an extra 10, 20 up there, 10, 12, 15 goals maybe, potentially.
Yeah, exactly. And if Salah's shooting, if any player is shooting 60 times more than another, chances are he's going to score more. So if Firmino keeps up his 4 shots per 90, which I doubt he will, but it's as I said, we're looking for clues. This is a bit of an anomaly compared to previous seasons. So it either captures something that we're going to see consistently for the rest of the season, or it captures something that highlights his form at the minute, if you like, or maybe a different role at the minute. It could be anything. Just as a little thing as well, I looked at Europe's top 5 leagues last season. For last season. Every player to post over 4 shots per 90, having played over 2,000 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And generally most of them are scoring a decent amount. You got Lewandowski in there, Messi was in there. Just players that consistently score over 20 goals a season. And Insigne was in there. He posted almost 5 shots last season per 90. He only scored 8. 8 goals.
That's a conversion rate and a half, isn't it?
Conversion rate was 4.6. That's really bad, that. Really, really inefficient. So
found the back of the net against Liverpool in Edinburgh, I suppose, didn't he? But
well, he's perceived as a top player, and he probably is, but that's bad.
That is not good.
That's really inefficient in your shooting. I think he had about 160 shots.
I think the cop's head would fall off if he played for Liverpool.
Yeah.
I could you imagine how many chances he's missing?
But they're big numbers.
He must be taking them from far away.
He's against the rule of thumb, if you like, whereby the more you shoot, the more you score. That's obviously not the case with Insigne, certainly based on last season.
I need to have a look at Insigne's shot map here live. Let's have a little look.
That's probably worth doing.
I need to have a little look. So that was last season, was it?
Yeah, last season.
He's my word.
Last season in Serie A.
He loves a shot outside the box, Josh.
Yeah,
he's taking a lot of shots outside the box here.
Yeah.
He absolutely loves a shot outside the box.
Yeah, I've just got it up myself.
Just don't let him anywhere away from anywhere beyond the 18-yard box.
These players though, he'll score a few of them, right, and it'll look great. And Ruben Neves is the same. Ruben Neves will score a couple of worldies from outside the box, and people will he'll get the narrative of quality finisher from outside the box or whatever. Insigne's quality cutting inside, which there's an element of truth to it, but at the same time, they're trying these things an awful lot, and a lot of the time as well, it doesn't come off. But they're not considered as much. It's just an interesting little point to make, I thought. But
1 goal from outside the area.
Is that Neves?
No, sorry, Insigne last season. And I can't even begin to count how many shots from outside the box he tried, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. Yeah.
It's so yeah. Liverpool know what to do. Yeah. So don't let them get into the 18-yard box, and they'll be absolutely fine. So I suppose the last word on Firmino for the moment. Is he a number 9 now? Again, 4 games in, but is he a number 9? Has he become more of a traditional number 9 without any of us realising? Or because I haven't really noticed the change in his style of play, but he's obviously finding ways and manners to get 4.33 shots per game off. I
haven't picked up on a change.
No,
I don't think he's got a new role or anything like that. I think he's very much still the player that drops with the other 2 running beyond him. I like the dynamic that provides. If you're an opposing centre-back, you're always presented with a problem. Then do I follow Firmino or do I follow Mane going the other way kind of thing? So if Firmino starts staying high, you start getting all kinds of structural problems and things like that. So I like the way we work at the minute. What it might be though is, what Klopp's like with the whole evolution thing, developments. Maybe he's given him a target. Maybe he says to him, I want you to shoot more. It could be anything. Maybe he just knows the intricacies of the system more, so he's able to read where the ball's going to drop. And as a result, he's taking more shots. Or it could just be a nice little streak, because we are 4 games in. That's nothing.
We can't stress that enough. You're probably bored of us stressing it already, but just in case, for whatever reason, you're only tuning in now, 4 games. It does lead us to some general trends though, Josh, and obviously it's the international break. We don't want to talk about international football because it'll bore the pants off of everybody. And we don't really want to talk about Newcastle because we'll be recording a podcast next week about Newcastle. So I thought it's a good chance to just take stock and just have a look at some early clues, as you put it, about what we're seeing so far. So Liverpool are third in the XG table, which is a slight overperformance, but it's too soon to say anything, primarily because Manchester United are second. So, I mean, it was sort of widely slated, wasn't it? The official Manchester United website ran that story going, we're actually better than our position says. And do you know what? I've got a bit of sympathy with them because I understand why they've written it, and it's actually quite nice to see an official club website try and delve into analytics. It definitely the heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
But it's 4 games and it just comes across as this real. So it was the headline. The headline killed it because it just looked like United were going, we're actually better than where we are in the league. But they've sort of got a point, and at the same time they haven't, because it's 4 games in.
No, it was good to see, them take it on board kind of thing. But at the same time, as a PR thing, when you're running a club, it's not the best thing to publish out there because you're just going to get slated. Really.
Got 1-1 with Southampton, it's you can't put it.
And one thing they failed to mention as well is a lot of that is down to penalties. Obviously, a penalty is 0.76 xg. They've had 3 of them, and that accounts for about 30% of United's total xg so far this season. Obviously, they've only played 4 matches, so if 30, I'd be very, very surprised if at the end of the season 30% of their total goals are from penalties. It's not going to happen. So it's the main problem with trying to judge things after 4 games. One of the reasons we are so focused on performance and things like that is because it gives you an insight into how a team are going to do in the long term, not 4 matches. So United are second in the expected points table simply because, according to XG, they've won every one of their fixtures so far, which is true. But as I said, against Wolves, for example, they finished with 1.14 XG. Wolves finished with 0.31. But if you take 0.76 off United, it's very easily a 0-0.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a strange thing for them to post, I thought, but it's just feels too early to judge a lot of things.
Looking at it from a Liverpool perspective, though, looking at it from a Liverpool and a City perspective, because let's face it, we're going to be talking about City a little bit here. You're already sort of seeing those two as underlying. I mean, West Ham are bang up there in terms of XG so far, goals scored anyway, or expected goals scored. But in general, it looks like Liverpool and City are the leaders. City do look good. They also got that 2-2, which, again, we've said before on this show, if you ever want to sort of say why a scoreline, why you need the underlying numbers to help with a scoreline, that 2-2 with Spurs is a prime example. But I did want to raise something, Josh. We're looking for little chinks in armour, some little signs of weakness from City, and I've come up with this. I'm grasping those straws. But defensively, in terms of XG conceded, expected goals conceded against Bournemouth, against Brighton, and against West Ham, in the last season's corresponding fixtures, the XG is higher than what it was last season. All of the XG that they conceded this season in each individual game is around the 1 mark, whereas last season, well, Bournemouth, for example, recorded famously an XG of 0.00 because they didn't have a shot.
Didn't have a shot.
So, as imperious as they're looking, despite the 2-2, they have been the sort of a very impressive team so far. There is a little bit of hope, maybe, by the fact that they're clearly giving up these opportunities. So have Liverpool, by the way. It's worth bringing that up as well. Liverpool's, XG defensively hasn't been as good either. But Bournemouth, Brighton, and West Ham, they're getting chances. They're getting chances which, by the laws of probability, should be at least resulting in 1 goal. Obviously, the problem is that City scored in about 4 or 5, but at least there is that sort of light at the end of the tunnel for Liverpool when you're looking at City.
Yeah, I think one thing I said over the course of the summer was the stronger the league gets, the better it is for us, basically, because City and Guardiola are just primarily suited to dominating bad teams, really. Just absolutely controlling everything. But if you're facing teams that have got good players with individual quality, they can get out of little situations that bad players can't. Like I watched City's opening match against West Ham. Seb Haller played up front. Don't know if you've seen it. You see it?
Yeah.
I thought he was quality for the first half. He was, City was trying to do the usual, whereby if West Ham tried to escape their own half, like Mendy will just go right through the centre forward or whatever it may be, and the ball will just come again. But because Haller is above the average player in terms of his ability, he was able to, even when tasked with, you've got 1 touch, you've got a millisecond, he'd cope. He'd be able to cope when he'd lay it off to like Lanzini or whoever it may be, running beyond him, and things like that. So it will be interesting to see this season how City cope. Maybe with I think we've got a slightly more attacking league this season, and I think the recruitment over the course of the summer from Premier League clubs was a bit better than years gone by.
Is that because of Liverpool's analytics to a degree?
Possibly.
Do you feel like people are looking at Liverpool? Don't get me wrong, there's been some big fees. Allaire, for example, was what, 45, 50 million?
Yeah, but that's a superb signing.
I know you are massively high on Allaire, but is in general have teams looked at what, not just Liverpool, but Liverpool, and they've gone, right, okay, this is how you crack the transfer market?
Yeah, I think Liverpool and City really.
Yeah.
To have 2 teams in one season post virtually 100 points, teams that are aspiring to be at that level can't help but look at that and think, how have they done that? And I think one of the reasons Liverpool and City have been able to get into this position, particularly Liverpool, is rather than making plenty of signings and hoping that 3 out of 6 stick, Liverpool never get a signing wrong. Never. There's no wastage ever. United have took the approach this summer. They needed a striker, they needed an attacker. Got rid of Lukaku, but because the right attacker weren't there, rather than going and signing Dybala, Icardi, Ben Yedder they were linked with, they opted to instead, no, we'll hold back, we'll just stick with what we've got. So I think Premier League clubs generally invested in fewer players, but the right players this summer. And I think they get that from Liverpool. I think the whole analytics thing that Liverpool are maybe helping bring to the mainstream, I think, goes back to the age-old quote really, whereby a man's insane until his ideas work, kind of thing. And I think Liverpool, now that they've won the Champions League, having a net spend of about, I'm not sure, I think you've tackled that this week.
I have. I've got dollars in my mind, but the net spend was, I'll get that up, but yeah, it's under 100 million.
Yeah, since Klopp's arrival, is that?
Since Klopp's arrival. Yeah, since Klopp's first summer.
Yeah. Well, see, that's just super efficient running of a club, whereby you're able to perform beyond your means, kind of thing, because you're just getting things right, you're making smart decisions. And I think, if the likes of Brighton and West Ham and who else have City faced?
Bournemouth
maybe. If they're signing players, particularly in attacking areas, who have got quality and can escape City's press and can cope when given a limited amount of time on the ball. And you pair that maybe with City having Rodri over Fernandinho, who's an incredibly clever player, but Fernandinho was more aggressive. Fernandinho was more of a, Fabinho type, whereby he'll put a foot in, whereas Rodri uses his brain a bit more kind of thing. And you've got De Bruyne in the team now as well, who, again, unbelievable player, but he takes a lot more risks than maybe Bernardo, who was in last season, which results in more turnovers and a little bit more chaos kind of thing. Just on that, I think De Bruyne is a midfielder made for Klopp. It's sad that they never got to work together. I think if I could take one midfielder from anywhere and take him to Liverpool, creative-wise, it'd be De Bruyne. I think he really suits what Liverpool do anyway. But
the thing is about De Bruyne as well, you'll know he'd be 35 and playing as a 6. You just know he's going to be around for it. He's just going to be. He's ultimately Gerrard, isn't he? In that sense,
he's very much like Gerrard. Yeah, I think he's what Gerrard would have been if Gerrard played under a Guardiola.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's something to watch for Garden City, but at the same time, they're still having 17.7 shots.
That's it.
On average.
Yeah, they're giving up one goal a game, and
yeah, they're having 17.7 shots on average, and facing 5.5. So, in any match, for you to take 17 and face 5, something's got to go seriously wrong there for the results to go against you, as it did in the Spurs match, for example, where it was just, I mean, that was
bad luck.
Yeah, just all kinds.
Bad keeping.
The posting 2.5 XG compared to 0.72 against. So we can live in hope. Hopefully things transpire our way, but you just it's difficult to bet against this City team.
Next two away games, sorry, because just right off them at home, really. I know they lost to Palace, but next two away games, Norwich and Everton. So there's two teams who are doing something a bit different this season. You never know. We live in hope. Liverpool, dare I remind everybody, are still 2 points ahead of Manchester City. And they go first as well next weekend. So hopefully a nice, comfortable win against Newcastle, and then watch Timu Pukki go absolutely sick against City. A couple more things that I picked up on anyway. Liverpool are averaging 10.5 shots in the penalty box per game, but only 0.5 in the 6-yard box. Can we read anything into that? Am I looking far too deep into this? Why are Liverpool one of the lowest shooters in the 6-yard box? Is that just the way they play because of Firmino dropping and Mane and Salah coming in inverted?
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that one, to be honest. Have you got last season's figures at all? Or?
I'll see if I can get them up.
I think we're different to City in terms of creating tap-ins and stuff like that every match. I don't think we're as inclined to.
Well, every one of their goals feels like it's in the 6-yard box, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, I think Liverpool maybe a bit less perfect with the way in which they create shots, generate shots, and things like that. But after 4 matches, as I said, it's really difficult to draw conclusions from anywhere. With United, for example, having the best defence in the league, according to underlying numbers. But that's because of who they've faced. United have faced Crystal Palace, Wolves, and they are both...
They're not high chance creators, are they?
No, they're not pressers either. They're very much counter-attacking sides kind of thing. And you got Southampton in there as well, who aren't particularly good on that side of the game. And
well, there we go. Last season, 6-yard box, 1.4 per game.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
It's one to watch. It's one to watch. It's something to keep an eye on.
It's a clue.
It's a clue. It could be a red herring.
Yeah.
It could be a red herring, but it's a clue. Man City 1.6. They top it along with Burnley by out of interest. But yeah, and then penalty box 8.5. So it's something that's interesting.
Yeah.
And it's something to watch, but it might mean absolutely nothing, which is the sort of insight you obviously listen to this podcast for. They're also so good in the air, Liverpool. And I just wanted to ask if we sort of don't appreciate that. Basically, according to who scored and their rating system, and just in general about their aerial duels, if you will, which I think they get the numbers from Opta. Liverpool are 17th in terms of aerial duels lost, 15.6 per game. They win 16 per game, so they're winning more than they're losing. And there's not many clubs around, to be honest. I'm just counting through now. That was last season, sorry. It's actually even better than that. But Liverpool and City, they're a big team, aren't they, Liverpool? And you don't realise this, but you watch them from set pieces now, and they're so well drilled, and you add that into the physicality and the size of them, and they're just a really hard team to break down in the air. Yeah. Van Dijk's obviously a massive part of that.
So is Joe Matip, I think.
Yeah,
he's
a big lad.
But like, I think that those aerial wins just stem from the style of play, really. I think we're so controlling, and we put teams under such pressure in their own half, whereby their only means of escape is to hit a ball long, aimless ball long usually. And you know, if you picture the Burnley game, for example, Van Dijk, I'm not sure how many aerial duels he contested. It will have been a serious amount. I'll check that in a sec. But most of them were fairly easy to win simply because of it's Burnley clearing their lines to an extent, and Ashley Barnes or whoever it may be will be contesting a ball that's almost behind him. Whereas
he won't be set. He won't be. Yeah, he won't be set. He's reacting to what's happening within the last couple of seconds, whereas Van Dijk's got the full view of it. Yeah,
he's able to proactively predict these aerial duels and, you know, address them well before they occur, kind of thing. So I think a proactive style of play, whereby you're the dominant team, will always help with your centre backs dominating in the air, providing they're at least half decent. I mean, we obviously saw Victor Lindelof against Palace. See that?
Yeah.
Where he just basically let Ayew go through. That was that's one of the problems with playing a proactive system with a centre back who's not physically imposing. And Liverpool obviously have centre backs who are, you know, fairly well built and good in the air all round.
Just want to have a little look as well. Liverpool hoof the ball, as the old chant used to come from the Arsenal fans, I think it was. 3 key passes per long game, which is one of the highest in the league. Manchester City with 1. I don't think that's telling us anything that we don't know, Josh, but it's interesting that Liverpool are so accurate and so good with their long range passing. It's clearly something I've seen so many times already this season. That switch from Trent to Robbo to Trent, it's a thing of beauty sometimes.
Yeah, only 3 sides as well. I've hit more long passes in the division so far than Liverpool, which is... But some people will perceive that as negative, really. I mean,
it's rewriting a narrative, isn't it? Basically, because long ball, Sam Allardyce. Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah, the whole long ball label is one that generally fans would like to avoid. But a lot of them are a little bit pointless, a little bit aimless. But some of them are, you know, premeditated, and they benefit us. Like if we just play, sometimes we do it as a means of gaining a pressing opportunity. If we hit a long ball into a channel and, you know, an opposing player opts to try to bring it down rather than heading it clear, Mane can then, or Salah can then immediately close them down, kind of thing, force them into a bad pass, that kind of thing. So sometimes it can just be a means of gaining territory on a pitch, just a means of getting into the final third. I certainly perceived it that way against Burnley. Both teams seem to use direct play, completely bypassing their own midfields to get into the final third, just as a means of like avoiding mistakes from materialising. The mistake that Ben Mee made, I think that was, I wrote in the match report kind of thing, that mistake that Ben Mee made, which led to Mane's goal, was the kind of mistake that I think Dyche and Klopp will have both wanted to avoid at the start of the match, hence the whole direct play in that. Obviously it worked against Burnley in the end, but yeah, I just think it's almost a pragmatic approach to the game, whereby, you know, you just avoiding any kind of errors. If you want to go long, just go long, rather than just rigidly committing to playing integral football all the time. You know, it's just not always necessary.
So I suppose we finish this little look, Josh, at the first 4 games and in general with a question, and I don't think it's going to be necessarily a long answer or an unexpected answer, but this title race is City and Liverpool already, isn't it? I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind that it's just for Liverpool to make sure it doesn't become a one-horse race ultimately, and they're more than capable of doing that.
Yeah, there's a massive gap, I'd say. Don't get me wrong, I do think Spurs are very quiet at the minute, but I do think once things settle down at Spurs and Ndombele gets fit, Eriksen gets his head straight, and Lo Celso gets fully integrated.
Could be a midfield 3.5 that.
You've got a really good team there. They've got loads and loads of options. Harry Kane will then be able to just primarily stick to penalty box duties, just stay in the penalty box and score.
Yeah.
So I think they're one to watch as the season progresses. But Liverpool and City, certainly City at the minute, on all the underlying metrics and things like that, City look by far and away the best. But which they will do, regardless. But a lot of that stems from Liverpool's first two, shaky start matches whereby we didn't have everyone available. A lot of travelling with the Super Cup and things like that. Our most recent 2 games against Burnley and Arsenal, we've faced less than 10 shots against both of them. Defensively, fairly assured.
That high line looks a little bit more controlled now, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
No more articles on that.
I mean, as we said, we were looking for clues. That's what we're doing at this time. For the first couple of weeks, certainly up until maybe week 8, you're just really looking for clues and things to maybe delve into and follow. And in the first couple of matches, that looked somewhat problematic, but it's obviously looked very assured in the past 2 matches. So maybe he was not even there. We don't even know, but it's something that's worth monitoring. Just as I said, just picking up on clues, keeping track of them as the season progresses.
Thanks very much, Josh. Anything else to add? Anything that you saw? Anything that you feel is worth saying? It feels like you can only found it on so much after 4 games.
Liverpool have got a conversion rate at the minute of 27%. City 26%, and then massive gap. I think Arsenal's is 14%.
So is that luck or is that
both
great finishing? Work on the training grounds.
Probably a bit of both. Yeah, good chances getting created maybe. Yeah. But it's probably a bit of both, and you'd expect both to come down a bit there. Yeah, but it's just a little bit of a banter stat that isn't probably going to be sustainable as the season progresses. Unless
you're Divock Origi.
Yeah.
In which case he's thinking, Christ, that's low. Thanks very much for joining us today, Josh. The international break we're getting through it. We will be back next week. Just as always, a reminder, keep on downloading all the podcasts on the Blood Red channel. If you're enjoying what we're doing on YouTube, give the YouTube channel Blood Red a subscribe, and just let us know. Josh is at Distance Covered. I'm at Kristian_Walsh. A little bit more wordy, that one. And just let us know what you'd like us to talk about. So thanks very much, Josh. We'll be back next week where we'll be previewing the Newcastle game and just having a little chat, hopefully, about how great Roberto Firmino is. Have a good weekend.